February 8, 1994, the corpse of a 54-year-old American woman. She was found hanging on a wall of the bathroom at the west coast of Tel Aviv. The police and the pathologist were quickly summoned to the scene. It seemed to be at first glance as a suicide case. But it was everything except suicide. Jenny may have been murdered. That she can committed suicide will not surprise me. I'm sure she was murdered. I do not think she was murdered. I know she did not commit suicide. Jenny May, an American citizen, arrived to Israel 3 months ago to help the organization Let the Animals Live. The organization fought against the transfer of dolphins to an amusement park. The activists claim that such a transfer will endanger the dolphins' life. The fact that May's body was found near the dolphins' pool was a clear message to her concerning fight for the dolphins' rights. 1993, the dolphins' pool in Tel Aviv was deep in financial difficulties. That endangered the life of the dolphins. A producer of a showbiz bought the dolphins at the pool and hired a Russian trainer in order to transfer all the dolphins to an amusement park. However, animal protectors claimed that the dolphins were transferred to a metal container. This will endanger their lives. The professor of literature Dan Olmager wanted to see if Jenny's stories were not hallucinatory, but heard a reality. He turned to 2 famous dolphins researchers, Rick O'Barry and Professor Emanuel Hartman. I told them to hear, I have a strange woman here. I do not know her really and only met her this afternoon. She tells stories that sound like imagination, try to check and talk to her while we have a supper today. I remember the astonishment in their eyes. Any name they mention concerned dolphins. For military purposes in the United States, including the Russian Academy. She was up to date, though she'd told me that for many years she has not dealt with dolphins. She was a master of Krav Maga and other fighting methods. The journalist Yigal Sarna came to the crime scene near the event. He was the first one to ask questions about the investigation. You look at scene and you say to yourself, no one will hang himself in such a relaxed place at night. Wear the fence that is about your height. When they found her, she was in a standing position. In order to hang herself, she had to be on the tip of her toes. It does not make sense. Did she tie herself up standing and then she did so and died? With her physical strength, with her muscles. This is unacceptable. As we try to clarify the question Jenny's death, we turn to Dr. Yojev, a reputable pathology expert. Which in the past he was the chief pathology of the IDF. Dr. Yojev should represent the family at the pathological analysis of the body. We were sure that now the truth would come to light. After all, there is an objective pathology expert, an honest person who will find the truth. In the evening his wife rings up us and says, you know, they did not let my husband enter the faculties where the operation should be taken place. During the meantime, the press was reporting that a suicide note discovered next to Jenny May's body. The clearest proof that she actually committed suicide. I call the reporter who signed the news, which appear in a serious newspaper like Haaretz. And the reporter tells me I did not write these things down. Then I call the Tel Aviv police spokesman and asked, who gave the news of the suicide letter to Haaretz? The speaker himself was not found and his secretary answered, I ask, you can find Jenny May's suicide note? The truth, she said, that we do not have any note. If the police have a note, the case was very easy and very clear. I brought all the papers belongs to Jenny that I found to the police. But I had taken pictures of all the documents before that. Suddenly the police inform about a suicide note discovered next to her body. It was a primitive way to make the impression. And to explain that Jenny had supposedly committed suicide. This lie was stitched very badly. You should not have to be a professor or a detective to see it. From the coffee shop, Jenny makes a phone call and sets up a meeting with someone at 24 o'clock. She should step out for a moment and meet somebody. Maybe this person should give her money or a credit card or maybe a passport. Or maybe everything else we do not know. She left the bag with all the ingredients in our hands. And she disappeared. When Jenny was gone, I was very scared. I was very worried that those people who murdered her will think she gave some classified material to me. Maybe they'll think I know things about her and try to murder me too. On Friday the police called me. Where are her suitcases? I said that I had her suitcases. They asked me to bring them to the police station. And I thought for a moment that before handing over the suitcases with all the stuff and everything inside, and then I did not yet know what was inside. Before we go to the police, we will photograph everything. And only then we'll go to the police. It may be that at point she hits someone's sensitive nerve. Her way to someone about the warts. She was to someone like a fish bone in his throat. I'm sure she was murdered. I have no doubt, not for a second. Looking at the murder scenarios and potential murderers, it will take 3 strong men to kill someone like Jenny. A single person would not have a chance. Maybe they were Palestinians, Israelis, CIA, who knows? But who was the person Jenny May? She could have been a single agent or a double agent or a triple agent. Perhaps that was the reason to silencing her? After Jenny's disappearance, Dan Olmiger and Benny Schlesinger asked the Knesset member Yael Dayan and the minister Yossi Sarid to find out if Jenny was known among the security services branches. Yael Dayan came back after 2 or 3 hours and said, Dan, I talked to all the competent people. They do not know about the person Jenny May. I phoned Yael again and told her, Yael, I'm going to publish the Jenny May story. I'm taking it out to the media and there's a big mess here, help us. The answer I got was no. Did you talk with people from the Mossad and the Shabak? Yes. Then Yael says to me, listen, people know her at the Mossad and at the Shabak and she is defiantly not a double agent. You should leave the story. We received no information from the Prime Minister's office that can ties Jennifer May to foreign intelligence services. And what about Israeli intelligence services? No comment. One of the supporter of the Dolphins rescue team told me that her boyfriend works in the military headquarters. He can read on the army computer if Jenny named in any connection. I told her to make me a favor and ask him to look for Jenny's data. These were more hypotheses to check. Maybe she knew something about dolphins that should never come out. Maybe concerning training dolphins or hiring dolphins to foreign powers. Maybe one power or another power don't wish anybody to know what Jenny could tell. Maybe all of that was the reason to silence Jenny forever. 7 years after Jenny's death, the police close of the investigation's files.
We really need to study the environment around the human-dolphin interaction while it's occurring. Listen to sound with hydrophones and try to find out if we can find some possible mechanisms that can account for this phenomena. We're watching these kids learn better, we're watching them speak better, we're seeing people with chronic back pain reduce their medication requirements. We're seeing all this phenomena. So we see it. We know it exists, it's consistent, it persists. But what we don't understand as physicians and scientists is how could this possibly be happening? And there's 2 reasons to ask that question. One is to understand the basic science. How could this possibly be working? Is there some sort of electromagnetic field or energy field being transferred between one to the other? And it turns out that there is something along those lines. The dolphins actually emit high frequency sounds. They create this sound in such a way that it creates a spatial sound reflection. They're not just beaming out point sources of space, they're actually sculpting patterns in the water. If you were to measure the energy, you would see shapes in their sound propagation. So that's pretty interesting, because when you're in the water as a human, you're nothing but a dense bag of seawater, and they can see right through you. Dolphins basically are ultrasound engines. They see right through. They perceive. Seeing is a wrong term. It's not with their eyes. It is an aural, A-U-R-A-L, which means hearing phenomena that actually they perceive their environment. They're in a sound space, as we as humans are normally in a visual space. So there's this sound energy emission that turns out has enough energy to alter physiologic properties within human tissue. So we have, for the first time, a possible mechanism to explain how there is the transmission of energy in a reliable way between one animal, the dolphin, and another animal, the human.
Okay, let me just give a little bit of history of Project Seagate first. And that'll help people understand. About 30 years ago, the Navy and NOAA, which is the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, who does a lot of research on the water, they were doing some surveying in the area of the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, that whole area, some underwater surveying. Why they were doing that, I don't have the details, but I know that they were. And they had ground penetrating radar that they were using. They found something. They found something big underneath the seabed off the west coast of Puerto Rico. So excavation commenced, and they found what was to appear to be a very large abandoned facility, not of human technology. But here's another thing that people may not be aware of that see this. Puerto Rico is one of the major hotspots for UFO and USO sightings in the world. 95% of these sightings that get reported never make it to the media. Based on my direct work with dolphins, with Project Seagate, I would not be surprised, because dolphins have been discovered because of their frequencies, because of other abilities that dolphins have that people are not aware of. They discovered a while ago, however long, at least I know for at least 20 or maybe even 30 years, that dolphins directly have, because of their frequency, because of what they can do, are almost used as a medium for travel via the Seagate.
What do you mean by that? Travel? Are you talking about time travel?
I'm talking about not just time travel, I'm talking about traveling to other locations in the universe.